Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm your host, Fabio Lalera, and today we're here with video producer Hallease. Today, she'll be demonstrating her workflow for finalizing vertical videos in Premiere Pro. Now, before I let her tell you more about her work and everything that we're doing today, don't forget to subscribe to Adobe Live on YouTube so you don't miss the next stream. And a quick shout out to the chat. Hello, everyone in the chat. Hey, Robert. Thanks for being here. All right, Hallease, that's all I have to say. I want to get right into your work and tell us more about Stumblewell and then what we're going to do today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I can't see the chat, but I'm there in spirit. Hi. I am Hallease. I am a filmmaker, storyteller, content creator, internetter, if you will. I just be on the internet in all forms, fashions, ways. And I'm a former Adobe Creative resident as well. And so, for the most part, the way I make a living is by creating and telling stories online. And so, yeah, today we are going to hop. Oh, yeah, and also teach online too, as well. So,
Yes.
today we are going to hop into my Premiere Pro project where I'm currently working on. Oh my gosh, Fabiola. Okay, so I'm currently working on a whole string of short form content that'll go across my YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And I've already edited everything. So the picture is locked, if you will, if
Okay.
you want to use film terms. Okay, on all of these. And today I'm going to just show y'all how I finalize everything. So for me, finalizing means picture's locked, sound is there, but I need to like balance my audio. I need to color correct and color grade. And then what else? Just like the tweaks, you know what I'm saying? Little tweaks you want
Yes,
to
the
do.
the finishing touches that really like take it from just plain to just polished. And I feel like you're amazing at doing that. Every time your videos show up on my Instagram, I'm like, this is next level. This is TV. So I cannot wait to see it. I feel like, yeah, all your videos are amazing. Be sure to follow Hallease over on Instagram at hallease.mp4. I'm sure we'll leave the link in the chat box. And a little reminder for everyone in the chat, drop your questions in the chat and I'll send them over to Hallease. She can't see the chat, but she can answer your questions because I'll send them over to her. So don't sweat it. Bring your questions. And yeah, let's get started.
Dope. Thank you. Yeah, so earlier this year, I ended up going to South Africa and I did that with the South African Tourism Board. It was a really cool experience. And so that's what the content I've been pushing on my Instagram, my YouTube, and my TikTok is South Africa content. And for the most part, I've done a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Real quick, I'll just kind of show y'all what we're going to be doing. So, one of them was like trying to summit Table Mountain, which is like this crazy epic mountain in Cape Town. South Africans are built different. Y'all are like mountain goats, and I am not that. So, you see me epically fail at that in these, in this first one. The second one was going to the Cradle of Life, which was really cool. It's like this cave where you can explore like the geologicals, if you will, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. If you're interested in like how the
Cave.
world began.
Looks like a cave or something, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it
All
was
right.
crazy. So that's one. And then I also went on regular safari, which is like,
Regular standard.
run of the mill.
Run of the mill. Yeah.
Run-of-the-mill safari. So you're going to see that. And then finally, I did a vineyard safari, which, if y'all don't know, South Africa has amazing wines, world-renowned wines. So I got to go to a vineyard
That's
on
so
safari
cool.
as well.
A little
So
bit of
that's,
everything. I feel like you covered all types of landscapes in this trip.
listen,
Terrain.
yeah, we were outside for sure. So the first thing I like to do once I've finalized everything, and you can see these are all th four separate videos in my timeline. These are four
Mhm.
separate videos I've created, but I like to edit. I actually like to batch shoot and batch edit my content, and I usually just keep it all in one timeline for me, and that's, I don't know, I just like to roll that way. So
Okay.
before we get going like too far, I want to make sure y'all know about the vertical workspace. So as you can see, we're living in a vertical sphere right now. And that's because Adobe Premiere Pro has a vertical workspace that you can use. It's always going to be at the top, and you can just double click. And when you do that, it'll switch over to the vertical workspace. Now, I'm me, so I have a different one that I've created, and it's called Vertical HN, which is just my initials. And so
Hmm.
a few other windows pop up for me, but this is where I like to work all of my vertical content that I create. So that way it just
And
feels organized.
what windows do you have that make it just slightly different than the standard vertical workspace?
Yeah, so I think for me, the things that are a little bit different from the standard workspace is as you saw my Lumetri, I always say this word wrong. Lumetri in the comments below. Douche it
Lumetri,
out.
I think. That's how we
Um,
always say it on the streams, Lumetri. I don't know if it's right or wrong
Lumetri.
though, but that's what we say.
Okay. All right. So, but I got my scopes.
Yeah,
For
scopes.
me, yeah, my scopes. For me, my color scopes always show up on the left. And then I have like my essential graphics, sound, text, and actual color, Lumetri Color like tab open on this center one. I think depending on which vertical setup you have, some of these like will be moved to this side or that side, etc. But this is kind of more or less what my difference is, if you will.
All right. And I have a question too about the batch timeline essentially. Do you also
Yeah.
have like multiple timelines in this project from other series, let's say? Or are you creating a
Yes.
new Premiere project every time?
Yeah, so I have multiple projects in, or like, yeah, multiple videos, if you will, let's say
Hmm.
that. Multiple videos in one project, because the way I tend to operate as a content creator is I will be filming throughout the month and I'll drop all of that footage onto my computer and then build out a Premiere Pro project of everything I've shot that month. So if we like zoom in, let me make it a little bigger so y'all can see, because it's probably like super tiny for y'all. That's hopefully better. Is that
Hmm.
better? Better
It's
enough.
better. Yeah.
So you can see in my Premiere project, I have footage one, which is South Africa B, C. Footage three, I had to do a video for YouTube, so that's there. I interviewed the Attorney General, that's there. Like I just have a lot of different things all put together, and
Hmm.
that's how I organize. And then when you go into my sequences, it's going to be a whole bunch of stuff because as I move throughout the months, I just create a new sequence, start building, start editing.
Got it. So you have one Premiere project, let's say for the month, with all the footage from that month. And then when the
Yeah,
next month comes around, you put this one to rest, you put it to the side, you
exactly.
start a fresh one. Got it.
Yeah,
Really cool.
yeah. And for me, that just seems to work the best for just staying sane.
Yeah. Because it does add up too. You're making a ton of content. So having one project like all year would be, or even a quarter would be just like a massive project to be opening up every time. Especially
Oh
because you're
yeah.
working in 4K, you have all these proxies. I mean, it's a whole thing, which I'm sure we'll learn more about.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. So for this first, so let's first just balance out our audio all the way. I'm going to show you all the like what I like to do. There's exponentially many ways to edit your audio, obviously. But this is like my tried and true way of doing it. Everything that you see here when I'm on screen like this talking, as you can see, I'm using the DJI Mic 2. But I would say a caveat is that I'm using the 32-bit float option. So I'm recording natively inside the camera or inside the transmitter, and then I am syncing the sound in Premiere Pro after the fact. So that way
Smart.
I get the best quality audio.
And it does make
So,
a difference because I also use the Pocket 3 and I haven't been doing that. And I've been like, what's wrong with my mic? Did she like, is my mic broken? Because it doesn't sound as good. And now I'm going to try what Hallease is suggesting and I'm hoping it'll sound a lot better.
yeah, it's 32-bit float is like so dope. And I mean, in a pinch, definitely just, let it transmit to your camera and use that if you just really need to get content out.
Mhm.
But if you can take the extra time, sync it, and like use the 32-bit float, it's so good. Because essentially what it does is the audio like is almost impossible to peak. Like you can never blow out your microphone when you're using 32-bit float. So the first thing I'll do, I'll play a little bit back so you can kind of hear in South Africa, but I will make sure to link to a few of them in this post so
And
that
you
way.
can
Hear that's like pretty low, right? And
Yeah.
again, that's because 32-bit float, it's just like always keeping the audio like willy-nilly in the medium, in the medium space, but now we need to
In a
like bump
safe
it up.
space. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm going to highlight everything that I know I filmed with that microphone. And then I'm just going to right click and go to audio gain. And I already, because I do this so much, I already kind of know that for me, it's around like 10 decibels, 10 dB to add to the gain to kind of get the audio levels, start to get them where I know they need to be. So I'm just gonna like hit OK after I do that. And then you see how that kind of like increased everything. So let's see where we're like sitting now in South Africa, but I will make sure to link to a few of them in this post so that way if you're planning your next trip. Cool. We're getting like pretty close. Ideally, I want my audio to be anywhere between like -3 and -9 dB. That's
Mhm.
kind of where I like to sit, happy-go-lucky, bland. But I usually don't go too much higher than like 10 dB on the gain. And then I move to my audio track mixer and I start messing with the effects and sends tab.
Right, because you could just add like a few more dBs in the gain and be like, it's where I want it to be, like I'm done, but that's just
Yeah.
not the same effect, right?
Yeah, it's like it's hard to explain, but essentially what the effects and tabs does is that anything that is now in the A1 audio track, anything I do to it, it will affect anything and everything that is in that track. So it's a great way if you're someone who's starting to organize your footage by like, oh, the dialogue's going to be on the audio 8 track, the sound effects are going to be on the audio 3 track, etc. You can start to balance everything out without having to click on individual audio clips, etc.
Very smart. And it's like you can turn the effects on and off super easily too. So that's always a plus.
Exactly. So within the effects and sends tab, my favorite things to do to my audio to make my voice sound buttery soft, if you will, soft or smooth, is I like to
Yes.
go to the filter and EQ, and I go to parametric equalizer, which sounds super snazzy, but like it's so simple what I do. I just go to vocal enhancer. And the preset that it has built in for vocal enhancer, I just use it. I rarely change anything. Maybe I'll bring up my mids, maybe, but I usually don't. I just leave it. And let's hear a little bit so we can see what we've got. Go from there. Really great wine for not that much money. Oh man, there are so many amazing. And then let me turn it off. Amazing vineyards in South Africa, but I will make sure to link to a few of
Less
them in this
crispy.
post so that way if you're planning your next trip, you can see what some of. Exactly. So that's what I always do. If I'm sitting talking to camera, vocal enhancer is always there. Now, you'll notice we're still a little quiet though. I think it's still a smidge quiet. The next thing I like to do is I like to go to, and I always forget where it is in here. Where is it? There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of them. I know this happens to me often, especially if you haven't like reset it in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. So the second one I like to add is in the amplitude and compression, and it's the multiband compressor. Double click on it. And for this one, I don't know if y'all can hear, but I do a lot of when I talk.
Mm.
It's just the air rumming to my teeth, etc. And so I'm just kind of self-conscious about it. And so I turn the de-esser on.
Well, I want to have it on the record that I've never had that thought. I've never been like, wow. But you are using it, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's why.
You know what? And here's the thing.
Let's
I'm
play it safe.
self-conscious. Yeah. I'm self-conscious, but like no one it's
Yeah.
all stuff that I'm working through. You know what I'm saying? I gotta work through it. God's working on me.
You're
So
closest to the track to the audio, right? Like we're just seeing the
exactly.
final output once we've done everything to it. So I understand, but you know, I think you're fine.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, so now I like to throw the deesser on, which again, it kind of pulls these certain frequencies of that sort of S sound and calms it down a little bit, which I really like. And then the final thing I do to my audio is I head back over into the effects and sends, and I do a hard limiter. And I always forget where everything is. It's every time. Where is it? Where is the hard limiter? There it is, right at the top. All right. Add that in. And with the hard limiter, what I usually do is I either pick -3 or -0.1 dB. And that's when I say limiter, what it's essentially doing is making it so it never goes above that -3 dB, which is like what we want our audio to be at. So let's start there and play a little back and see what we got. Money. Oh man, there are so many amazing vineyards in South Africa, but I will make sure to link to a few of them in this post so that way if you're planning your next trip, you can see what some of their offerings are and schedule a tour. Not too bad. I was just very
Not too
soft
bad.
spoken today.
That
That
day you
day.
were just, energy was low, maybe.
I mean,
You have like a calm presence in this clip, is what I'm trying to say.
no, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. I think we're gonna up it to 13. As you can see, is this a science? There's a lot of guessing.
It just depends
Money.
on
Oh
the
man, there are
track.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's pretty
so
good.
many amazing vineyards in South Africa, but I will make sure to link to a few of them in this post so that way if you're planning.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, audio for the main content, pretty much done. My final thing I like to do to make sure there's no, pops. Sometimes when you're cutting clips together and you put two clips next to each other, you'll hear a little as it goes from one clip to the next.
Mhm.
And that's super frustrating. Easiest way to get rid of that is to add a crossfade to every single one. Now, just in case y'all don't know how to do that, when you click on the latest version of Adobe Premiere Pro, you can actually use these little guys now to create crossfades.
Oh, I had
Really
no
dope.
clue about that. I was just
Yeah,
dragging them
that's.
on there still.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hadn't thought like, is there a better way?
Yeah, game changer, bro. These were pulled in. The idea of this was pulled in from Adobe Audition. But yeah, you can just grab these and create a crossfade across two clips now. Super easy. I love it. But another shortcut that I always like to tell people about, especially if you know you're going to do a crossfade across everything, so you're not sitting there dragging, highlight everything. And on a Mac, it's Shift Command D. So on a PC, it's Shift Control D question mark.
Somebody
But
try it, let us know.
yeah, somebody confirm in the chat for me, please. But what I'm going to do is hit Shift Command D, and you can't see it, but when I zoom in each one now, that crossfade is there in each and every single cut now.
Wow.
And
Did you have to set like the length of the crossfade somewhere, or does it automatically do like a short crossfade?
so it does have a default to automatically do a relatively short crossfade. I want to say it's across like 10 frames. Don't quote me on that. But you can set it to be even shorter. You just go into your audio settings within Premiere Pro and change that feature to be however short you want it. I want to say I have changed mine and I can't remember how much I've done it for, but
Let's
I
see
have indeed changed mine.
if we have found out. Because yeah, I always find when I drag and drop the crossfades a little too long every
hmm
single time. And if you can just avoid that, avoid having to click every few clicks, every few clips, that would be great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, if anyone in the
Maybe you can't
chat,
find, maybe it's hidden somewhere. Maybe they moved it.
yeah, because I did it. I will say that I did this to like for myself. I don't even know how many years ago. And
Yeah.
every time Premiere updates, all of your settings just transfer over. So I can't remember where it is in here,
There's
but
definitely a way to do it, and maybe someone can drop a link in the chat. Um,
yes,
let's
hit
see.
us up,
Yeah.
please, because I can't remember. But YouTube University obviously is also super dope.
There's probably another Adobe Live that covers it, to be honest. So, you know, hit
That
subscribe.
part. That part for sure. And then I also want to do this crossfade idea for my sort of what I'm calling ambient audio. So this is audio that I have from the raw footage of like wherever I was, rather than, sort of me in my studio space. We've essentially balanced all that audio already, right? So for this audio as well, I want to do the same thing, highlight everything. But you'll notice when I do that, the audio is linked to my video, which is not ideal because
Mm,
then it's going to put cross dissolves on the video too, and I don't want that. So I need to unlink them. The way to do that is Command L, Control L on a PC. I'm going to just hit it, and now everything is unlinked, and I can just highlight my audio, Shift Command D, Shift Control D on a PC, and zoom in. And once again, you'll see my little cross dissolves are all there, but not on my video.
nice. Yeah, because that would be very tedious to do that and then have to. I can't even imagine that. It would be a lot of work. So Hallease is saving you guys a ton of work right now.
That is always the goal. And then likewise, as you saw, I did my effects and sends on this A1 track. So everything I did there is showing up here. All I have to do, because I essentially want to do the same thing on the ambient audio too, all
Mhm.
I have to do, click and drag them over. And now all of that is on that second audio track as well.
Perfect. I feel like, yeah, now you don't have to go in through all those little drop down menus and reset it. You're able to just transfer it over and have it match. That's great.
Yeah, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and make sure our audio, the ambient audio, is more or less sounding where we want. We might make some few adjustments. So let's watch this one through.
Y'all, let me tell you something. South Africans are built different because me and Stephanie tried to hike up Table Mountain because everyone has said, oh, Hallease, it's so easy. It's easy, easy, easy. The Uber driver was like, you want me to drop you here? Like here, by yourselves. Now we hiking vertically up this hill. The booty is bootying. We building some glutes, bro. But the thing that was crazy was the amount of South Africans who were passing us, billy goats. The amount of shade me and Stephanie were getting because we were both like, the amount of, not your shade me. I'm doing my best. I'm on the side of a cliff. That is where it is looking like I'm supposed to walk. Needless to say, we did not make it to the top of Table Mountain. I think this is as far as I go. But wow, beautiful gowns.
Wow, you were supposed
Highly
to walk.
recommend
That was
going.
the path everyone was walking?
That was the path.
I was like, I thought you were just showing us the view.
No.
That's terrifying. Oh, my hands literally get clammy thinking about it. I cannot. My hands are sweating because just like the idea of having to be like, I would be like gripping that rock. No, yeah, I just wouldn't do it. You're right.
No, yeah. Yeah, Stephanie, yeah, she was struggling. She's actually scared of heights. So, and everyone said it was easy. Like everyone was like, oh, it's so beautiful. It gets a little scary towards the top, but you'll be fine. It was like, okay.
Things have changed. I don't know where they were.
Obviously, yeah. Crazy.
But we did not make it to the top, and that's okay because we still got cute pics, and we also still got to see an amazing view literally off the side of a cliff. Y'all, we found a cute little ledge.
We got a perch. Why would you continue to go out and endanger yourself when we watched the whole sunrise from the perch?
But yeah, we're now gonna descend.
Are we? I live on the perch now.
We have to get back down. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah. It was amazing and beautiful. Everyone should go. If you're ever in Cape Town, definitely hit it up. Just be forewarned.
Right, now you know.
Now you know.
Don't believe the others when they say it's fine. You just go up there, it's fine, not a big deal. You should take it quite seriously.
Yeah, don't believe the locals.
Yeah.
But there were so many people, as an aside, literally there were so many people that were like jogging past us up the cliff and then jogging back down. Like,
well, okay.
Amazing.
You live in Atlanta right now?
I do.
And you're from Texas, right? Or you were living in Texas before? Flat?
Yes.
On flat? It's pretty flat.
Well, Atlanta's pretty like mountainous, actually. Atlanta's got some hills, got some foliage,
hills or mountains? I don't know the difference. I'm from Florida. It's often confusing to me, the difference between a hill and a mountain. I feel like it's regional, but yeah. I feel like maybe you're just used to a different kind of terrain, let's say.
100% yes to that. But I will say Atlanta does have, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat if y'all have been here, but I feel like Atlanta has mountains. And I feel like sometimes you're vertical, like you're going up and it's vertical, but it's space. There's space to go up the mountain to
you're
grab.
Not at the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, you're not on the side of a cliff. There's a difference, I feel.
Yeah, the city is situated among the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. I'm sorry that I just said that, the A word. I know it's very controversial.
Is it? Oh no, I'm learning things. Okay.
But yeah, I'm wrong. And that's fine because I'm from Florida where the terrain is flat. So
yeah, Atlanta, we're like, a lot of people describe Atlanta as like a city in the woods. You know what I mean?
All right.
Village.
But apparently Atlanta did not train you enough for
not
South
at all
Africa for this one experience.
Not in the slightest. I mean, I definitely have my mountain legs in regards to running, you know what I mean? Because you gotta like run up and down hills all the time. But literally climbing up the side of a cliff, no.
Unfortunately.
Not ready.
Yeah.
Not ready in the slightest. All right. So I think our audio is pretty good. I will say music-wise, I usually don't add music to my vertical content because algorithmically for performance, you want to try to add music within the app. So I tend to not have any music at all.
Right.
When
so for
editing in
vertical
Premiere.
video, you're not even editing to music. which a lot of people edit to music.
Yeah, every now and then, if I have a song in mind that I know I want to edit to, I will go and like find it and put it in here for timing and chop things up. Or I'll edit in such a way where I know like within the app, I'm gonna move this and move that and like make it work to the beat, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
But for me, for short form content, generally, audio, like the music, is literally just to help performance. Like using the
Yeah.
trending audio is just so it shows up on your feed a little bit faster.
Right. And in your vertical videos, I mean, just from this vertical video alone, we're seeing a lot of storytelling. And if you focus on that, then yeah, your music can be background music.
Exactly. And it's really just like day of decision if I even put a song or not, actually. There's a lot of stuff that's on my socials in general, especially if it's storytelling like this, where yeah, I usually don't put any music, or I put it so low that again, the algorithm, this is like me giving
Wow.
y'all some tea. This is me giving y'all some tea.
Controversial. This is, yeah. Not a lot of people suggest to go audio free.
I know. I'm scary.
It's scary, but I I think with your storytelling skills, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like the music is just there as it's decorative.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not essential, but like you said, it is true that if you add a little bit of trending audio, it might help, the ranking. So you might want to do that.
It definitely will help. And this is me like being problematic on the trends, but you can also just put the audio if you want to have your thing be trending with trending audio, just go into the app and just put it like at 1%.
One.
Like
I
just
have
whatever you
put it
gotta
at
do.
one before when I edit to music. Like I
Yeah.
edited to the music and then I put it in there and I can't line it up because the Instagram editor so finicky that I
Yeah,
just put it at like, yeah, one. So you can't even hear it. But it's still credited to the artist and everything.
exactly. And it still helps you again get your content seen that much more.
Yep.
So, hot take,
Good tips. Good
maybe.
tips.
Or good tips. That's what this is.
Yeah.
These are good tips,
Pro
not hot
tips.
takes. Pro tips. All right. So audio, more or less, I think we're done. What time are we sitting at? Oh, we still got chingos of time. This is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Go us. All right. So then let's move into color a little bit. Um, so these videos, all of these, oh, is there any questions in the chat? Hold up, my bad. Before we move on. Any audio questions?
No big questions in the chat. And we did have a suggestion here that, wait, hold on. Okay. Jack is saying that the setting for the crossfade settings is edit preferences general. So maybe that's true. We could see. Maybe we just missed it because there's like so much in there.
There is so much. There is a lot in here.
Duration. No, I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
I don't see it. All right. Maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to play around with it. It's somewhere in here though.
I was trying to Google it, but I just don't know the terms to use. I feel like I'm not getting the right results. So I'm like, crossfade, length of time, edit setting.
Oh, I wonder if it's like, I wonder if you have, see, this is also the struggle of being an editor. You have to like, yeah, to your point, have the nomenclature, like have the language down of what to search. So maybe try searching
Premiere Pro.
Pro, crossfade duration.
Crossfade. Yeah. Length of time. That's funny. Okay. You're right. Duration. Synonyms. Okay. Adjusting transitions. Duration. Yeah, I'm just getting like how to adjust duration, not the setting. So it's somewhere in there. We will find it.
Yeah, we will.
Eventually.
The Virgo in me is coming out and I'm like, but where is it though?
Where
like
is
I'm
it?
getting
Where is
it.
it? Yeah.
I'm starting to get into the vibe. I need to let this go. But will I? Will I though? Will I? I'll let it go. Oh, I found it.
Oh my gosh. Timeline?
Yeah, okay. So settings, preferences, timeline, video transition default duration, 30 frames, audio transition default duration. I have mine set to 2 frames.
Yes. I knew that when I was looking at your timeline, I was like, that crossfade is tiny. There's no way that that's just default. So great. Now we know we can all go ahead and change it and never touch it ever again. And you'll forget just like Hallease where it even is.
Yes.
But you'll be operating like so seamlessly.
Exactly.
And a quick reminder while we're here, if you have questions on audio, since Hallease just covered audio, go ahead and drop them in the chat. But now that we're going to move on to color, bring your color questions as well.
Exactly. Cool. I'm glad we did that. I'm glad we worked through that and solved it together as a family.
Satisfying.
Yeah, it's super satisfying.
Teamwork.
Makes the dream work 100%. All right, so now let's move into color. For me, I try not to take color too seriously for the internet. But there are a few things that I do want to make sure y'all know about Premiere Pro and working in color in Premiere Pro, because there's a few things that have like been changed recently. The first one being in the Lumetri Color tab, like you have your edit where you can actually go around and play with all your parameters here. But now you have a settings tab in the Lumetri Color tab.
Okay. Yeah, that's new to me.
Yeah, it's pretty new. And there's a few things in here I want to make sure that you are aware of whenever you're editing and working in Premiere Pro. So the first thing is you want to more or less probably keep your sequence to be Rec 709. That's kind of like the gold standard of how entities interpret color in the video. The times when you'll use 2100 PQ, you're in the Hollywood sphere. You're in the Hollywood land. And there's just certain things that require that kind of color workspace. Generally speaking, if you're going straight to the internet, Rec 709 is your guy.
Yeah. And that usually applies to vertical content for the most part. So this all makes sense here with the theme of this demo.
Exactly. And then the other thing I want to make sure y'all know about is if you twill down the preferences, is it preferences? Me always forgetting where stuff is. It's not preferences, it's project. If you twill down project, a few things in here I think are very important to remember. The first one is your HDR graphics white. So this kind of just depends on what camera you're shooting on and getting sort of the most out of the dynamic range of whatever you're filming. I shoot on a Sony FX3, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and I usually use 10-bit color in these devices. So that way I can get just a lot of range. Switching it to 300, that allows me to utilize all of that range even more.
Okay.
The other thing is your viewer gamma. So this used to be something that was really frustrating in Premiere Pro that they actually fixed in an update. When I used to teach this, and usually this had to be a LUT that I would add on after I finished my entire video.
I do remember the days. I do remember that.
Yes. Yes. And so now the LUT isn't needed anymore. Now they have built it into Premiere Pro. So if you are editing on a Mac, you have probably noticed that when you export, sometimes it looks not as saturated or not as rich when you export from your Mac. And that's not Premiere Pro's fault. That's just the gamma that QuickTime reads at. So without getting too inside baseball, the broadcast gamma is what most of us know. That is actually how like everyone sees the color of the video is that. And you notice how much it just changed, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a Mac, you want to use QuickTime. So that way you'll actually export out what it will be. So when you export to YouTube, Instagram, etc., it'll actually match what you have done in the program in the browser. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Makes a lot of sense. That is a really important one to select and have, correct, because otherwise you'll just live your life just accepting that it's going to be a little off.
Yeah. It's not.
And it doesn't need to be this way. Hallease is showing us another way.
It doesn't need to be this way.
You don't have to be frustrated.
You don't. Something I'm still playing around with just because I haven't had time to really like test how much it helps, doesn't help. But if whatever reason, if you're someone who's posting straight to TikTok, Instagram, etc., I haven't played around with like utilizing the web gamma on an export to see like, because you notice that did add some saturation back in. But just to like do a test and see how I like it versus then, airdropping it to my phone and posting it in app to see just like what that look is. So I haven't played around with that yet. I mostly just stick to QuickTime because that's what I'm in.
Yeah.
But play around with it, y'all. Don't be
Yeah,
afraid.
that's like a good test to do and just see like the differences. And maybe you actually prefer the web one. You don't know
You
until you
might.
try it.
Exactly. But those are the things I want to make sure y'all know about Lumetri Color because I just think that it's very important. A lot of people will get very frustrated in Premiere because they're like, hey, this is what I did. Why is it not showing up? That's why. Your gamma's just not where it
Right.
should be.
So Hallease is saving you the trouble of being frustrated and following this tutorial, but it not matching. She's reminding you, make sure these settings are there before you even start doing all the color grading, because otherwise you're going to be like, it doesn't line up. It's not happening the same way it's happening on. She has a special program, and Hallease has maybe a special Premiere Pro, but you also have a special Premiere Pro, and you can do it.
You could totally do it.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's kind of like go through and start to color correct and color grade. So the first thing I like to do is the flagship image, whatever it is, or like the flagship content. I like to color correct and color grade that first. I just feel like it just, because a lot of it, when I'm just sitting here, the lighting doesn't change too much. And so it's just easy to just do it. Now, something I do, I'm going to show y'all two ways. I'm going to show y'all the way to do it without purchasing LUTs, because I do have LUTs that I've purchased that I like to use. And then I'll show you, well, I'm going to show you how to do it without purchasing LUTs and then with the LUTs that I've purchased. So if you want to get the signature look, you can get it. All right. So the first thing, don't sleep on auto color. I really appreciate auto color. If you haven't tried it out, if you're someone, I'm not a colorist. I don't pretend to be a colorist. I can give you some color theory, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not a professional colorist.
Me either. So we're both on the same page here. Yeah, it's time to use your tools. It's there.
Use the tools. So let's just see what auto color does. You know what I'm saying? Let's just like boop, click on it. And because I shot this pretty well, it didn't do too much of a difference, right? You saw it kind of adjusted things a smidge.
Compliments
right?
to the chef, right?
Just a skosh. Yeah, not to toot my own horn, okay?
Yeah.
Not trying to toot my own horn, but it didn't do too much. But we can always intensify whatever it does and push it to the extreme just to see. So something to play around with. I also think this is a great way to learn about color theory and color correction and color grading by doing. So you can see as I move this slider, it's adjusting everything else accordingly.
Yeah.
And so you can start to, just like mess around with things. My biggest tip is always like experiment, guys. Like don't be scared.
Play a little.
Play. Yeah, you know? So I'm going to reset and then have it be auto. Cool. There's a few things here I know I already want to just like clean up for my own sake. This auto color is always just a starting point, first off. Nothing set in stone. Don't freak out. But I know I'm going to drop it a little bit because now we're getting into my personal color preferences. So I'm going to drop the exposure just a smidge. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep everything around like 95-ish%. This right here, that is my light in the background that's being blown out. And this is why I always like to have the scopes up because you can see something in the image, but the data doesn't lie, you know?
Right.
So let's play a little bit.
Please, it's so easy. It's easy.
And so you saw as I was like slightly moving, let's see if we can find a better. We'll turn this all off. Yeah.
Because me and Stephanie tried to hike up Table Mountain.
So you'll see I am in the middle of the frame. So I am represented in color right in here. So that's what we're going off of. So with this shot, I want to bring up the blacks a little bit. I don't really want them to be all the way at 0. I think I want them like just like kissing, like kiss it. Just, you know, kiss 0.
Right. Just before, so it's not pure.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing to remember too is if it's hitting 100, that means that pixel is completely white, like it's gone. There's no data there. If it's hitting 0, that means that pixel is completely black. It's gone. There's no data there. So keep that in mind. That's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a metric for you to understand what's happening visually. So that's like, I think that's pretty good. Something else I tend to do with my footage is I up the saturation just a smidge. So you can bring out the melanin, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like to do that. And then for the most part, I would say, all right, this is more or less color corrected. Not graded, just corrected. So
big
here's where we
difference here.
started. Yeah, here's where we started. Here's where we're at.
All right, I can see it. I definitely see it.
Cool. So then now I'm going to take everything and just scoot it all up for now.
Make
Because
some
I want
room.
to. Make some room, if you will. And here's where I start to like mess around a little bit. So something else I like to do is I like to mess with the curves just a smidge.
Okay. Not
Just
getting too wild with it.
not too crazy.
Okay.
Something that is very common with color correcting is you'll see a lot of people do what's called an S curve in this top. And this is just like RGB curves for everything. So everything you're seeing. And they'll just like kind of dip here and bump here. And that's just a basic S curve in color. And you saw how that just like
Shifted
moved
things a bit.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can do that if you want. That's always like a great place to start. But something I like to do to bring out skin tones is I'll go into the hue and saturation. So hue, color, saturation, the intensity of that color. And I'll click my little eyedropper. And again, I'm really big on the melanin popping. You know what I'm saying? I like the melanin to just pop. So
That
I
should be a
usually
priority.
And I think this also works like regardless of your skin tone. Like obviously I'm very deep skinned, but regardless of whether you're fair or deeper, this works on everybody.
Right. You don't want to
I
look washed out in either case.
exactly. So I like to just highlight the color of like my forehead or just somewhere where I feel like the skin is like super smooth. And then I just like add a little bit of saturation. It's so mild.
Mm.
Like I don't even know if you can really even see it on the live stream, y'all.
Maybe if
But
you, oh no, then you can't move it. I was going to say if you hit the tilde on the program monitor, maybe we could see the difference,
oh,
but then you would need two. So it doesn't really make sense.
yeah, but like it's an incredibly like
Could you max it
super.
out just so we can see like
Oh, sure.
what it's doing?
Yeah, sure. Boom.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I could make
Just
myself
full
orange.
Just ate a lot of carrots.
So many carrots. I'm
Yeah.
rich in carrots right now.
Okay. But it didn't
But
affect
like,
anything else. So it's good to see like how that those preferences affect it.
yeah. So it's super mild. When the next time you're editing, pop into there and just see it for yourself on the monitor. Again, visually, I don't know if it's really going to show up here for y'all, but on my monitor, like sitting here, I saw the difference. The next thing I like to do is I come down to the hue versus luma. So now, again, we're picking a specific color, and then we're picking how much like light is on that color.
Interesting.
That's like the best way I can
Following.
say it.
Trying to follow here. If anyone has any questions, drop them in the chat.
Oh yeah, sure. But then, so the next thing I tend to do is like, so you see right here on my forehead, like that's where a window is like hitting me, like the light is hitting really strong right there. And so I'll kind of pick that area, and you see it's like, here is where it was for like my skin tone on an even plane. And then here is where it is. It's a scooted just a little bit to the right, like a little bit brighter, you know? And for there, I like to just like drop it down. So I do the actual opposite. And I find that what that does, it creates like this matte effect across like most of my face. And I just feel like overall it just balances out my skin across like the entirety of my face. You
It's
still
like
get that
nice and
fall off.
smooth.
Yeah. You still get that nice like lighting fall off that you want, but it's not like too harsh. It just kind of gives that, you know what I'm saying, like soft glam matte.
Yes. It is very soft glam. I think that's the exact word I was trying to look for.
Yeah, okay.
Without looking like AI, which, you know.
Right. Yeah,
to each their own. To each their own.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. And I feel pretty good about it. Okay. And I think this will work more or less for everything. So now we're just working smarter, not harder. We're just going to go to our effects controls where all of this lives, everything I just did. I'm going to copy and then we're just going to paste it on everything.
Paste it on all those clips that are you just like framed exactly like this.
Yeah, boom. And again, because I like to film with minimal lights, I'm just like going through the frame right now and just like seeing if anything looks a little amiss. Because sometimes since I film with minimal lights and I use a lot of natural light when I film, every now and then, like, the sun has moved or something like that. And so maybe I
Cloud
might
goes
need to,
by. Yeah.
yeah, I might need to go in and like adjust, you know, the exposure a smidge on a shot just because, a cloud went by or something. But it's looking like for the most part, everything, I'm just kind of clicking around. Everything looks.
Seems like the sun cooperated with you on this day.
The sun was feeling me today.
Yeah.
So it worked out. Yeah. Honestly, I
Steady.
think it was a cloudy day that day. It was super rainy.
That really works.
It really does. The next and final thing. So that was all color correction. We started tapping into color grading just a smidge there with like adjusting skin tones. Then we're getting into color grade land. Final color grade thing I want to do is I want to create basically a blank video layer. It's called an adjustment layer. And you can put all sorts of things on an adjustment layer. But I'm going to essentially do my color grade across that whole thing.
Got it. So the color correction you actually did on the clips. So it's like affecting the clips. I mean, you can delete it, but it's right into the clips. And now the grading is a separate layer, which you can then move around, treat like a clip.
Exactly. So I have a Premiere Pro project that I build from. So I already have a adjustment layer created in here that I can just drag on and it's there. But for the sake of teaching and for the sake of time, because we still got chingos of time, here's how to create an adjustment layer. You go to new item at the bottom, hit adjustment layer. And usually whatever settings you have for the active sequence, that's what the adjustment layer is going to be. Hit OK, boom. This one showed up in my adjustment layer folder, which is delightful. Drag, and we're just going to drop it and make it go across all of my footage.
Everything. And it's like, there's no limit. I've never hit a limit with an adjustment layer, right? That's not a thing.
No, yeah, you can just have adjustment after.
Keep going. Yeah.
You can to the sky, to the moon if you want, So with our adjustment layer selected now, this is important. Adjustment layer selected. Now we're going back into our Lumetri Color scopes. And from here, we can make even more adjustments if we want to. We're not going to. What we're going to do is we're just going to go into the Creative tab. And here's where we're going to add like the stylistic look of what it means for me to be in my living room. This is my living room.
Right. And so this comes down to a lot of just personal taste, preference, just like what is your vibe? You need to look inward, right?
Yeah, totally. I'll show y'all a few of my favorites that I love to use. If you follow me, then you have seen these looks. You've seen these looks a lot. The first one is, and don't freak out because it's going to be so extreme because it'll be at 100% intensity. Don't freak out. But Gold Rush. So Gold Rush is essentially Premiere Pro's version of teal and orange, which is kind of like the standard for filmmaking. Any movie, general movie you see, they're bumping the oranges and the blues. So like just basically try to encapsulate everybody's skin tones and stuff. So I usually have it at like 60%. So nothing too crazy. But again, it's starting to give a stylized look and feel to the video.
Yeah, definitely. Can you turn off the adjustment layer real quick so we can see
Sure. So here's where we were. Yeah. And here's where we're at.
Yes, rich. Very rich now.
So that's one I like to use a lot. Another one that I like to use actually is just neutral start. And for me, this just feels like just super clean, like just a super straight, almost not even color grading. Just like, it almost just feels like another layer of color correction to me. It's like I'm taking it off and back on, and then I can bump it to 100 so you can really see. But I feel like it just gives like super sharp color intensity.
It's almost like real life with like a slight boost.
Yeah, exactly. So that's with it off again, back on. So I like that one a lot too, which I might go with that one for this, maybe.
That's at 100%. So before you had it at like 60 or something, right?
Yeah.
Just to make it look less dark, essentially.
Yeah. This one's at 100%. If we boost it, here's what it's like if we like keep going. There you go.
It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot. And then another one I personally love, I'm a big fan of like the clean Fuji A's and B's. And I say that mostly because you started to get into like color tone, color theory stuff and like what your skin undertone is.
Mhm.
So Fuji traditionally, if you've ever shot on like Fujifilm, that's what they're basing these off of. If you've shot on Fujifilm before, it usually has a little bit of like a greenish undertone to it. And so my undertone kind of complements that. And so I feel like it just kind of boosts, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm giving jolly with these cheeks right now. Look at her. She's
Mhm.
Santa. And you can just have a lot of fun with it. So I know a lot of people love Kodak because, you know, we've just all kind of grown up with that sort of warm reddish look. That's what
Yeah.
Kodak can give you. But play
And
around
these
with
are all
these,
built, are
y'all.
these all built into Premiere Pro, or are these special?
These are all built into Premiere Pro.
You can get these for yourself.
Yeah. Any questions in the chat? I feel like I'm talking.
No questions in the chat right now because you're doing an amazing job of explaining everything. So I feel like there are no questions, to be had, but it's a great
Okay.
time to remind everyone, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Behance, go ahead and bring your questions on over. Hallease is talking all about finalizing video. So it's a great time to get your questions answered because it takes a lot of kind of skill and you have to be pretty precise to finalize a video. So this is the perfect time to get your questions answered before we're done with the stream. And as a
Exactly.
heads up to you, Hallease, we have
Yeah.
about, 30 minutes left-ish. Yeah.
Okay. Dope. I think we're making good time. All right. So that being said, that's now, I feel like my layer of me speaking, talking in the world, more or less done. I feel good with it.
Mm-hmm.
We're vibing, right? Let's
Yeah.
turn this back on. And something I would say that I do when I'm color correcting and color grading is, especially if it's just not, I don't want to say just going to Instagram because Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they're all main streams of income for me. So let me
Right.
not say it that way.
Yeah,
But
no, you're totally right. I mean, this is a priority, really.
yeah, but I also try, like the whole point, you're always trying to balance quality with quantity, right?
Yeah.
So this isn't a feature film that anyone's going to be looking at on like a two-story screen.
Not
We're
yet.
not doing,
Not yet.
not
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
We're not
Not
doing all
yet.
that.
Okay. Being a little
So for
realistic that it's for phone.
exactly.
Maybe TV
Um, yeah.
on YouTube.
Actually, a lot of people, whoever, if y'all are watching us on your screen right now, on your TV screen, if you're casting us, that
We're
was a
talking
hard
to
lesson
you.
I learned. Yeah, I learned this during 2020. A lot of people were streaming my content from YouTube on their big screen TVs and they would tag me on Instagram, be like, I'm watching Halisa's vlog. And I would see it and I was like, that was what made me start filming in
You were
4K.
like, this cannot be happening to me right now.
I was like, oh, not me still
Why
in
are you
1080p.
accidentally dragging me into
Right.
1080 with your
I
4K
was,
TV?
right. I was like,
Yes.
oh no,
Yes,
time
yes,
to
yes.
upgrade.
We've all been there. We've all been there. I mean, I think, unless you got it like that. You started in 4K.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely did not start in 4K. There are still 720p videos on my YouTube channel if you go back far enough.
That's how we
So
know, you're the real deal. You've been coming up with these what is it called? Dimensions? I can't think of it right now.
yeah, yeah. I think there's also still like 4x3 stuff on my
Wow, you're
YouTube.
really experienced. You have so much experience across all different types of screens and resolutions, which is really
Mm,
important.
yeah, it's very mature.
Yes, 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 yes.
All right, so yeah, let's like breeze through color correcting all of this like real quick. Something I'm gonna do now since I'm color correcting is I am gonna toggle off the proxies. So we're more or less getting it at the quality that it'll be. But if it turns out that I need to not do that, the producer will let me know and I'll toggle it back on and we'll keep going. But for stuff like this, especially if it's phone content, I tend to lean into the fact that it's phone content and more or less just use auto, unless it does something like that where I'm like, no, and I
Like,
move things back. You know what I mean? And I keep where's my scopes? There they are. I keep my scopes up so I can just kind of brush through and see how things are going. Now, with this section, oh yeah, we're gonna have to, let's see, will it let us? we might have to turn the proxies back on so that way y'all are keeping up with me because I'm moving too
Right.
fast.
Yeah,
Let's see.
Hallease has been using the proxies just for the sake of the stream, but also when
Yeah,
you're editing, if you turn your proxies on, you're able to edit just a little bit smoother without waiting for all that heavy footage to load up. Which, let's see, was it
exactly.
affected, Hallease?
Yeah, it's
Easy.
The Uber driver was like,
oh
no.
no, okay, it's more or less keeping up with me. I want to see what Otto's gonna try to do with this because yeah, okay, because it's like in the dark. We're literally like in the nighttime, and I shot this on
Yes.
my phone. So I'm just like leaning into it, letting things
Up this
happen.
hill.
I just want y'all to know that I'm outside and that I'm there, right? Nothing
Yeah.
crazy.
Silhouette.
Silhouette. Now, here's where we're using DJI content. So this is like using the Osmo. A little more I can play with um, in regards to color.
Mhm.
So
The amount of shade.
not too bad. Well, something I want to do is I want to up the contrast on this like a lot. But you notice I'm just like looking at the scopes, looking at the image, and then just keeping it stepping. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Ooh, I like what it did there. That feels pretty good, actually.
We're both
Yeah, I actually
Yeah,
like
that's
that a
nice.
lot. I'm gonna bump the blacks down just a little bit more. Yeah, so we get more detail of the buildings in the back. And then what else do I want? I want to like, no, no, no. There we
Gives
go.
a lot
Just
of
bump the
context,
whole.
this shot.
Yeah, Chingo's a context for sure. And then let's see, what else we got here?
the amount of
This one. Boop. And then again, it's always about making sure you are actively on the right shot
Mhm.
as well.
And so these you're editing clip by clip, essentially, because every clip is so different and has such different lighting.
Exactly. Now, for something like this now we're kind of like in this one sphere, so maybe I'll sit here for a second and really balance this one out. So I want the contrast to up a lot because this was 10 bits, so it's kind of flat. And by flat, I mean it's like desaturated, if you will,
Mhm.
almost. And it's like that so that way I can play around with the color correction and the grading a lot. There we go. That's pretty good. Can you tell I woke up early? Look at these bags, though. It is what it is. All right.
Actually, we have a question coming in here from
Dope.
Kevin Bear.
Okay.
Just joining, but what key things should we keep in mind when we translate a regular broadcast style video and make a social media short from it? So that's
Ooh.
it's a lofty question, but maybe there's like a few key points you want to hit.
So, okay, so let me like all of these clips right here are all kind of like in the same world. So I'm just like throwing the color grading I did on one onto all of them. So they all more or less
Mhm.
look the same. Except for this one. That's a phone clip. So let me take that off. Yeah,
Yeah.
so one thing I say to do is don't be afraid to play with your aspect ratios. And don't be afraid to like double up on stuff and use the vertical space. Because if you're talking broadcast, I'm assuming you're talking like 16 by 9 rather than 9 by 16 now,
Mhm.
which I find that's something I see with broadcast that I'll get super annoyed with. I'll be like, yo, just crop it, like make it make sense in the vertical space. So for example, I did it with this. A lot of the content I shot in this particular video is actually horizontal because it's going to be on my YouTube channel. But instead, if I wanted to make things look a certain way, I just tripled it up in the shot. So that way it just feels more organic when you're watching it on a phone rather than just having it be like what it would probably be, which is, let me pick the right one.
Yeah,
But
by
which is
stacking
just
it,
the
it feels
one.
more intentional, right? Like a stylistic
Exactly.
choice, and like you put a little bit more thought into it than just
Ex-
having the black bars, essentially huge black bars.
Exactly. And then something else I'll do is I'll have a lot of fun with it. So like with these, they're super clean. It's just three shots of the same thing, kind of like tripled up, and there you go. But for this one, for example, I know it's dark. Let me like throw some exposure on it real quick so you can just see it better. But for this one, I actually just used other shots to intensify what the tour guide is saying at this moment. So we're in a cave and he's showing us all the what is that, stalactites, stalagmites? I don't know.
One of
Um,
those two is right.
right. And he's showing us all of that. And that was a whole separate shot that I gotten. And then I put him in the center. But again, if I had tried to make him what he needs to be, which is like, let me see if I can find it. Is this one him? Which one's him? That one's not him. This is me like not being in order. Here we go. Yeah, so if I had actually made him like the appropriate size he needs to be, it would,
To fill
it
the
just
frame.
wouldn't,
Yeah.
yeah, to fill the frame, it just would feel a little like stuffy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like tight, and
So
also it's not, there's not a lot of context there, right? By adding the cave, I was like, oh, okay. Immediately I know where we are, what we're talking about. So you can use it to your advantage.
exactly. And so that's something I'll do as well, is I'll ideally, obviously, you shoot vertically natively and then you shoot horizontally natively, but that just doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
And so doubling up shots to create more of a mood of something is like my biggest tip. Or even like this one, basically it's 3 different shots of elephants. So really sell that like chingos of elephants. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And do you typically shoot, if you can only shoot one at a time for that, for this moment, right?
Yeah.
Which one are you doing?
Ooh, that's tough.
This is the question. This is really,
Yeah.
you have to have so much purpose, right?
You do. So if I can only shoot one, I'm still leaning horizontal for the most part, but my framing, I'm very conscious about my framing. So I turn on my rule of thirds for any camera I'm filming on.
Mm-hmm.
I turn on my rule of thirds, and if I have an inkling of like this shot might end up being used in vertical in some way, then I make sure to keep the subject of it right in that center column of my camera. So that way, if I do need to push in, the space is there to do it. And sometimes
Right.
that also means I tend to generally now shoot pretty wide, like
Yeah.
16 millimeters. The Osmo Pocket, I think it's natively 20 millimeters, something like that.
Awesome.
So wide shots, because you can always push in a little bit in post if you're going to be doing horizontal content as well as
Mm-hmm.
vertical content.
Yeah, give yourself that
So
breathing room. So even if you end up using it vertical, you're not automatically just limited to a super close-up shot or being forced to stack because you don't have another way to play it.
exactly. Hopefully that answers the question and
Yeah,
gives.
yeah, it does. Kevin says, I like that stacking concept. So I think that's a really great tip, and everyone's gonna probably implement it in their next vertical video.
Dope. Yeah, so that's that one. There's another one. There's one more I was going to show as well. I think it's in this one. Is it in this one? Yeah, this is something I'll do a lot too, where whoever's talking, I'll make them be sort of the main shot. So in this one, it's me, but then I still have the wide version of the same shot as well, kind of
Yeah.
like doubled up on top.
That's really
So,
captivating because then you're able to like just immediately have, especially if there's a lot of voices going around. I
yeah.
like that tip.
Let me see. So this one, I think I was talking about like someone's got to create the wine content. Guess it's got to be me. Here we go.
Right.
Working.
Doing labor. Such
Wow.
laborious.
That's why people don't take our job seriously. It's things like this, Hallease. It's things like this.
We actually got to
Yeah, but so to give you an idea, like when Stephanie's talking, I switch that bottom one to be her. It comes back to me, etc. But the wide shot up top is always the same. So again, people get that context a bit
That's
more.
very captivating and a really cool way to use the horizontal video, because that's when it gets really tricky when you have like two people in a horizontal video. Now it's like, who's going to be the star? Who is the star?
Exactly.
Now you made both of you guys are the star.
Exactly. And that also works if you're someone who is doing like video podcasts, that's something else. You can totally incorporate that style into like video podcast cuts and stuff for
Mhm.
social as well. All right, so we're like plowing through color correcting and color grading, all of this stuff. Like we're not gonna overthink this, you know what I'm saying? We're not
Yeah, if
gonna
this was
overthink it.
a full film,
Yeah,
whole movie, 2 hour long, you might want to take your time. But
but
these are 4 different reels that we're going through, right?
they
I'm saying
are.
reels, but it's vertical video.
No, no, no. I mean, they are 4 different reels. We're not going to do all of them for the sake of time. We're going to focus on this first one and like
Yes, yes.
finalize this first one. But, I mean, we're trying to set a tone, set a mood, what I'm saying?
Put your
And yet,
signature stamp on it too, because if you just use it right out of camera, it starts to look like everyone else who has the camera. And let me tell you, a lot of people have the Pocket 3.
A lot of people
So
have a
a
Pocket
lot
3.
of people have the Pocket 3. So you need to stand out. You need, and that's like I was saying earlier, Hallease really made the audio stand out. I was like, what? That's Pocket 3 audio? It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, a lot of people have Pocket 3s, man. A lot of folks.
A
Keep up
lot
with
more
me, Cameron.
popular than the Pocket 2.
Is it? See, I've never had a Pocket except for the Pocket 3, so. But now I'm kind of like,
It's a good one.
I've slept on it, you know what I'm saying? I should have really been in the Pocket land, and I wasn't. It's bad.
Yeah. We're not sponsored, but I'm sure we would all accept a sponsorship.
Oh. Love a sponsorship.
Yeah. Call Hallease, DJI, call Hallease.
All right.
All right.
Where are we at? 2:35? Okay, dope. All right, so here's what we've got. Feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, I mean, like it's giving vlog, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn the proxies back on so we can actually do playback a little bit. So the quality will drop a little bit for y'all, but
Y'all, let me tell you something. South Africans are built different because me and Stephanie tried to hike up Table Mountain because everyone has said, oh, Hallease, it's so easy. It's easy. Easy, easy.
The Uber driver was like, you want me to drop you here? Like here.
pretty good. We're doing pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Doing pretty good.
Yes.
Questions?
No, everyone's just really impressed with the stacking tip and how you can incorporate it with B-roll and A-roll. So I feel like, yeah, everyone's feeling good, but we welcome questions, chat. Bring them on over. So we already did audio, we did color correction, color grading. Do you do anything else to finish up the color grading? Anything to a last minute filter, last minute LUT, anything like that?
Yeah. So sometimes I will have a color grade across all of the B-roll as well. So I'll do like another adjustment layer or I'll like do some crazy nesting. I don't know if we want to get into all of that.
Let's keep it simple for the sake of the, the streaming part of the whole thing, but would love to see the essence of it.
Yeah. So in essence, what I would then do after I've gotten all of this, like where I want it on the color correcting for the B-roll, I would then take another adjustment layer like so. And I'm just gonna, option, hold, and drag. So what I did there is like by holding option and dragging up, it like creates a duplicate of whatever you're hanging on to and then puts it there. So I'm just gonna drop that up here. And again, this adjustment layer now has something on it. What does it have on it? Does it have anything on it? What does this have? Creative? There it goes. All right. It's got the neutral start on it. But then I would start to be specific because now neutral start is doubled up on me.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would then go through and like, get rid of those sections where you can see me on the bottom to make sure that now neutral starts being added to everything.
So the neutral LUT is now affecting only like the clips, not the, A-roll view, talking head.
Exactly.
Okay.
But cool. I would go through and like do that to everything and make sure we're good.
All cut up nicely.
Yeah, that's a fast version. Okay, so the other thing, now let's move on to one of the last few things I do to finalize the video, which is text.
Which brings me to Kevin Blair. I know he just commented, have you talked about caption placement? So I feel like we're headed in this direction, Kevin. So stay tuned.
Yeah. So for me, YouTube short videos, I don't usually put burned in captions on those, only because I find that just like the essence of being on YouTube shorts, it just doesn't seem to vibe with it to me. I don't know why.
You're right. Now that I think about it, when I scroll through shorts, like they don't tend to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that changed. In the beginning, I think people were doing it, and then something happened in the same way that now people hold the mic. And at some point they didn't. Like it's like a shift in the culture.
Yeah. And so I don't usually have captions on the versions of these videos that will go on YouTube Shorts, but Instagram and TikTok, I like to have my own stylized captions in them. So The first thing we're going to do is we need to transcribe everything that's in this sequence. And the way to do that is head over to the transcript, the text tab, and we're going to switch it to be the program view, because when we do that, that'll show all of the clips that are in this that need to be transcribed, which Premiere doesn't differentiate between like stuff. I don't even know how to describe that. Premiere doesn't differentiate between audio clips and video clips. It's like, I'm going to transcribe everything,
Right.
which if you want, if you're someone who like edits via transcription, then go for it. I usually don't. So for me, I'm just like singling out the DJI clips actually, because I know those are the ones I need transcribed.
Right.
And then I mean, now we're getting into the debate because again, I have my ambient audio here where I am saying things. So now I am like, oh, well, maybe I should transcribe everything. For the sake of time, we're just going to do the DJI clips.
Okay. But Kevin, you could apply this to all of your clips.
Yeah.
Or none of them.
And hopefully, because I'm also using a lot of computing power to live stream right now, hopefully Premiere doesn't hate me for doing the absolute most all at once on this computer.
I think it's going to perform great.
All right. We're going to hit transcribe though, and it's going to take it
doing
away.
its job.
Yeah.
Start transcribing. And I feel like in my experience, it's been pretty accurate at transcription. What's your experience been like?
Oh, yeah. Mine has been very accurate. I would say the only time it struggles with my name for obvious reasons. Yeah. It'll
Me
struggle
too.
with my name and then like certain gear names that I'll say. But I mean, that's to be expected, you know?
You know, I switched it once to Spanish.
Ooh, yeah.
And it got my name right. So that's, you know, that's interesting.
Oh, that
So
is
it's smart. It's
interesting.
smart. It's just like very specific.
Yeah. Using the power of Adobe Sensei. That's me. Oh man, that's me getting back into my back when I used to be a resident days and had to say all the stuff. All right. So let's see. Here's what we've got.
Y'all, let me tell you something. South Africans are built different because me and Stephanie tried to hike up Table Mountain.
And see, it even knew Table Mountain, so it knew that is was that a proper noun? There we go. It knew that was a proper noun. And it always does Hallease for me instead of Hallease. So something I will do with any of my videos when I'm preparing my transcripts, I will go through and watch and correct all the text in the transcript tab first. So that way, when it creates the captions, I don't have to then go in and try to edit the captions because that gets kind of annoying to me.
It's a little trickier, right? Because of the timing stuff.
Yeah. And so I find that if I actually sit in the transcript portion and edit it out or edit, you know, how I want things to go, it just works a lot better.
We have about 10 more minutes here, which I think is plenty of time to get through captioning.
Yeah.
But I'm just giving you a little heads up and a heads up to the chat. If you have any last minute questions, we've got about 10 more minutes of working time before we start wrapping up. So it's a great time to bring in your questions and get them answered before we get off. But this captioning stuff is one of my favorite ways to finish up videos, especially like how you were saying for different platforms, you do it a little different, but it's still so easy.
Yeah. So one thing I will say is, you know, I kind of teeter between standard American English and African American vernacular English. And so it does have a little bit of a hard time discerning between the two. I do code switch quite a bit. But, you know, other than that, it works pretty well. So like what I would usually do then is I find it fun to add back in some of the colloquialisms that I say into the captions. I would definitely say my captions are not what's the word? Like closed captions compliant on a broadcast level. I throw jokes into the captions.
Right.
Yeah. So
that makes
keep
a lot
that
of
in
sense.
mind.
That makes a lot of sense for where they're living, where the videos are living.
Exactly. So let me we'll go through here and like correct a couple of them real quick.
Okay.
Y'all, let me tell you something. South Africans
So let me tell you something, you know?
Yeah.
So something like I would do with that is tell you something. Like I would make it one word.
Got it. So again, this comes down to personal style. This is how Hallease is
Yes.
differentiating her captions from everyone else's captions. And I think it's a really good tip because why not? You know, it adds personality.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, let me see here. That one, South Africans.
South Africans are built different because me and Stephanie tried to hike up Table Mountain because everyone has said, oh, Hallease, it's so easy. It's easy, easy, easy.
The Uber driver was like, you want me to drop you here?
And so that's me doing a bad South African accent and it being like, what is this?
I always have a hard time with like punctuation when I do captions because obviously when you're speaking, you're like it's not necessarily grammatically correct or
Yeah.
sentence structure. What's your take on that? Do you just go with what sounds natural or are you a grammar stickler?
You know, in my heart of hearts, I wish I was a grammar stickler, but I'm not. One workaround I would say to do though, if you're someone who, like, say, for example, once you build your captions out and you know you're going to have whatever text you use be caps lock anyway. So really, like, the grammar kind of starts to not matter. You know what I mean? Something you can do is use the search bar and like put all the punctuation in there. So that way it will now find where all the periods are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then hit replace and literally replace it with a space and hit replace all. Now there's no periods. So just
Oh,
like
I
getting
need that.
rid,
I need that because a
yeah,
period is so serious. It's like texting. It's like, why are you so serious with the periods here? So
yeah,
that is a great, great tip. I hadn't used the replace feature like that before. I've used it for like name and removing words and stuff like that, but not for that.
yeah. Yeah, and this is something because most of the people like right now, let's go through making captions just like the way I see everyone do it,
Mm-hmm.
which is like caps lock captions, right? And you don't actually want the question, like you don't want any of the punctuation really. So I'm just going through and just replacing all of the punctuation with a space bar to get rid. Is that all of it? I think that's all of it officially. Yeah. So
That's
question
so
marks.
easy.
Yeah. So, okay, now we have our captions. Let's pretend our captions are done. We went through and
Mm-hmm.
finalized them. They look great. Now we're going to head over to the captions tab, create captions from transcript. And here is where you can start to get pretty intense about things, I would say, if you want. So I always leave the format as subtitle. I actually have different styles of captions already designed that I know I like to use. You can do that in Premiere Pro. I'll show you how in the last couple minutes that we have. But let's go like with bold yellow. You'll see what it looks like in a second. And if you know you're going to want it to be like more or less like just 1 or 2 words per frame, I would say dropping this down to anywhere between like 25 and 35 characters is a pretty safe bet. And then usually most people like single lines. I can tell a lot of people don't really want to see the double lines of captions on things. It feels like too,
Too much reading?
I mean, I guess so. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
But yeah, I also feel like actually for me, I feel like it gives things away too fast because the captions are
Right.
going to be a hair second before what you see visually or hear. So yeah.
You're trying to
And
control the
then
story.
exactly. And then we hit create. And so yeah, now we've got these captions.
Y'all, let me tell you something. South Africans are built different because me and Stephanie tried.
All right. So this is what we're working with.
That was like 3 clicks. And we went from transcript to stylized captions in the timeline. So, Kevin, I hope that you are loving this. And I hope everyone else on
Yeah.
the stream is loving this and bringing any questions to us if you have them.
Yeah. One thing I will say, a few things. You can always go into your captions in this subtitle tab, highlight all of them, and then your essential graphics panel essentially becomes like the properties of what your captions are. It turns them into that. So for these, for example, like I would probably put them in the center-ish, maybe, or towards the top, but then, bring it down using the title safe. I don't want to go above this line here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would also, yeah, make sure that they're middle aligned. I mean, I think that's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Let's say we want to like create a new style of caption though. So we can make this white and then let's pick a different font that we just know will like in general. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Who are we outside of that? That's who we are today.
Okay. A
And
little
then let's,
sci-fi, but it works.
yeah. And then, we're gonna make it bigger. Okay, cool. So let's say we know moving forward that this is just like what our captions are always gonna look like for videos, like every day, all the time, everywhere, all at once. Then we would just go up here to track style and we would hit the plus key and hit create style. And, let's call it, sci-fi captions.
I
And
don't know
here's the
why
thing that
it read like that to me. So
no, I think you're right. It's giving sci-fi to me.
yeah.
And so from here with this window, you can save it to the project and you can save it to your local styles. I recommend saving it to both places, especially if you think that this is going to be a style that you use a lot. So that way it'll always follow you regardless of what Premiere Pro project you're working on, as long as you're on the same computer.
Nice. That's a great tip. That way you don't have to constantly import it when you start a
Exactly.
new month of Premiere Pro sequences. So that's really smart and yeah, handy. So you don't have to keep rebuilding it every time.
Exactly. But if you hit OK, then it'll save it into your stuff. I don't want this saved, so you can hit OK. Or here, I'll save it to this project, so that way the next project is gone. But then now you'll see it is there. My sci-fi captions now show up.
And now next time when you go from transcript to captions, you can select it and go straight to that when you go to your captions. Just super handy and makes things really a lot more faster.
Yeah.
A lot more efficient is what I was trying to say.
Y'all, we're getting to the end of we're losing steam. Getting to the end of the live. But yeah, so this is my caption style that y'all usually see. If you watch my content, you usually see this caption style. And I would say at this point, this video is like more or less wrapped up. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up to export. I just created an out for this first video. So I have my in and my out. And then I'm going to hit Command M, Control M on a PC, which is going to bring us to our export window. Or you can just hit the little export tab in the top left-hand corner. Yes. We are currently in a YouTube situation because that was what I was doing before this. But I actually have a preset built for vertical videos at 1080p. Even though I shoot my vertical content in 4K, I always export to a 1080p timeline because at the end of the day, it's on your phone. And so like you don't need it to be 4K on your phone.
Unlike YouTube, which we were talking about, YouTube standard horizontal video that you might want to have exported in 4K. But this, you don't need to. And now it looks extra sharp, right? Because you've downsized it.
Exactly. It starts to look extra sharp. Also, it gives me the ability when editing to expand my clips even more and have more shots within a shot because I'm filming in 4K, but I'm always editing in a 1080p timeline for vertical only.
Right. Wow. Okay. So you've given us so many tips during this stream. We went all the way from how to set up your project, your vertical video workspace, even how you set up editing multiple clips, right? Multiple videos in one timeline, all the way to exporting, which I feel like we've covered so much. And I know the chat loved everything about stacking and captions. So thank you so much, Hallease, for this amazing tutorial. Where can everyone go follow you, catch your next video? Let them know.
Yeah. So like I said, I'd be on the internet every day, all the time. So Instagram at hallease.mp4, YouTube, I'm very Googleable at Hallease. And then also TikTok at Hallease as well. So yeah.
I would highly recommend following Hallease. She'll share a ton of educational content, but also amazing just vlog and great style for inspiration for those who are trying to get into any kind of video. So I really recommend the follow. And don't go anywhere because up next is the Adobe Spotlight with Courtney Bird and Ashley Koffelt to talk all about your portfolio, talk all about their portfolio experiences and creative process. So stick around, don't go anywhere, and remember to hit subscribe to Adobe Live so you don't miss the next stream. hit save on this video so you can watch it back, because I know Hallease gave so many tips that you're going to want to replay. And that's it. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Thank you so much, Hallease, for such an in-depth demo today. Thank you. I'll see you next time.
You're welcome. See y'all.
Bye, everyone.